By the early years of World War II, morphine was both a miracle and, well, a problem. It was the gold standard for battlefield pain relief, but it came with limits that became painfully obvious once global war disrupted supply chains. Morphine depended on opium poppies, which meant agriculture, shipping lanes and political stability. None of those survived the war intact. Military doctors were facing mass casualties, amputations, burns and shrapnel wounds, while realizing that their most trusted painkiller could not be relied upon indefinitely. That pressure created a race to find a substitute powerful enough to replace morphine, but controllable enough to be produced anywhere, from bombed-out factories to mobile field hospitals. How wartime chemistry produced a synthetic rival to morphine. How wartime chemistry produced a synthetic rival to morphine. In Germany, where access to opium was severely restricted by Allied blockades, chemists were ordered to develop a fully synthetic opioid. The result was methadone, originally known under wartime research names before being trademarked later. Unlike morphine, it was not derived from plants. It was created entirely from industrial chemicals already used in manufacturing explosives, dyes and fuels. That mattered enormously. It meant pain relief could be produced anywhere chemical industry still functioned, without relying on agriculture or overseas supply. What shocked early researchers was how effective it was. Methadone provided strong, long-lasting pain relief, often lasting significantly longer than morphine. For battlefield medicine, that meant fewer injections, longer relief during evacuation, and less immediate demand on overstretched medics. Why military doctors seriously considered replacing morphine altogether. On paper, methadone solved several wartime problems at once. It was potent, stable, and easy to store. It did not degrade as quickly under harsh conditions, and it could be manufactured in bulk without competing with food production. Field tests showed it worked well for severe trauma pain, surgical recovery, and long transport times. There was another advantage that caught military attention. Methadone's slower onset and longer duration reduced the dramatic peaks and crashes associated with morphine. Patients often remained calmer and more stable over extended periods. In theory, this reduced shock, panic, and repeated dosing. So why was this drug quietly sidelined after the war? Despite its promise, methadone carried risks that wartime urgency often downplayed. Its long half-life meant it stayed in the body far longer than morphine. That made dosing more complex, especially in chaotic battlefield conditions. Accumulation could occur if medical staff were not carefully trained. In civilian medicine, where time and monitoring were available, this could be managed. In war zones, it introduced uncertainty. There was also politics. After the war, Allied forces seized German medical research, but morphine production quickly resumed at scale. Pharmaceutical companies already invested in morphine had little incentive to promote a rival associated with enemy laboratories. Methadone did not disappear, but it was redirected into tightly controlled medical use rather than mass battlefield deployment. This is how the drug became forbidden by association rather than failure. In the decades that followed, methadone gained a controversial reputation, not because it failed as a painkiller, but because of how it was later used. Its role in addiction treatment overshadowed its wartime origins. The same properties that made it valuable in combat medicine, long duration and stable blood levels, made it effective for managing opioid dependence. Public perception shifted. What had once been considered a frontline miracle became viewed narrowly through a single lens. This shift erased much of its World War II history. Few people today realize that it was nearly adopted as a primary battlefield analgesic, or that its development was driven by survival under total war conditions. What this teaches modern survival medicine and preparedness is, well, quite important. The lesson here is not about replacing medications, but about understanding why redundancy matters. World War II medicine was forced to ask uncomfortable questions about reliance on single solutions. When morphine supply faltered, innovation followed. Modern emergency planning often assumes uninterrupted pharmaceutical access. But history shows that assumption fails quickly under real crisis. From a preparedness standpoint, the takeaway is broader. Systems that rely on one source, one supplier, or one method are fragile. Wartime medicine survived because it diversified its options, even when those options were imperfect. Why history remembers the battlefield but forgets the laboratory. The soldiers remembered the relief, not the chemistry. After the war, attention shifted to reconstruction, not wartime improvisation. Methadone's origin story faded, buried under post-war politics and later controversies. Yet its existence proves how far medical science was pushed by necessity. Why this forgotten chapter still matters today. Honestly, understanding this story reshapes how we view wartime innovation. It wasn't always about better weapons. Sometimes it was about keeping wounded men alive long enough to matter. The forbidden painkiller of World War II wasn't forbidden because it failed. It was sidelined because peace changed priorities. If you value serious history, uncomfortable truths, and the forgotten science that shaped survival in the darkest years of the 20th century, subscribe to the channel and share this video with fellow history enthusiasts who want more than surface-level stories.